A video of a masked pro-Palestinian individual has been released. In this video that has been released on social media, this has taken place in Mississauga in Canada. These individuals, these rioters were seen defacing the statue of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who was the founder of the Sikh Empire. The person defacing the statue was identified as Hosaam Hamdan, who has a history of defacing statues of cultural significance. This viral video is around 37 seconds long. Two Palestinian masked protesters can be seen on the statue of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. One of them can be seen tying a cloth on the horse of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. The video was shot by several protesters present at the scene. The Peel Police of Canada have been informed about the incident, which is being looked into, but the police have not released any official statement so far. Maharaja Ranjit Singh's statue has been a target of Islamists before as well. In 2021 in August, there was a similar incident that occurred at Lahore Fort in Pakistan, where a 9-foot-tall statue of Maharaja Ranjit Singh was vandalized for the third time by the members of a Pakistani political party. The statue was pulled down by workers of Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, which is an Islamist political party. The LTP workers first broke the arm of the statue, then dislodged it completely. The two workers entered the fort posing as disabled person and his helper. The man who pretended to have a leg disability hit the statue with the rod that he was carrying. Maharaja Ranjit Singh was an exemplary and powerful Sikh leader who successfully repelled numerous Afghan attacks in Punjab and safeguarded the region from invasions. He is often referred to as the Lion of Punjab. He was the founder and first ruler of the Sikh Empire, established in the early 19th century. Maharaja Ranjit Singh lost the sight as one eye due to smallpox in a very young age. Despite having only one functional eye, he emerged as a formidable leader and military strategist. He consolidated a vast Sikh empire and challenged the might of the Afghans. Maharaja Ranjit Singh also resisted the expansion of the British Empire. His administration was inclusive, compromising individuals from various religious backgrounds, including Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, and Europeans. Maharaja Ranjit Singh was born on 13th of November in 1780 in Gujranwala, which is now in Pakistan, and he fought his first battle at the age of 10, ascended the throne soon after. At 18, he conquered Lahore. He ruled for 40 years, keeping the British at bay and ensuring no harm came near his empire. At the age of 12, following his father's death, the burden of the throne was placed on his young shoulders. He was officially crowned as the Maharaja of Punjab at the age of 20 in 1801. After his coronation in 1802, he annexed Amritsar into his empire. By 1807, he had defeated the Afghan ruler Qutbuddin and captured Kasur. In 1818, he seized Multan, and by 1819, Kashmir was under his control. He passed away on 27th of June in 1839. Raja Ranjit Singh was the father of the Sikh Empire, the last man to successfully hold Afghanistan, and generally loved by all in South Asia. This isn't about Israel or Palestine, it's about the destruction of everything that is not part of the Muslim Brotherhood's worldview. Let's start our conversation. On the telecast with me is Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee, who is a former diplomat. Thank you very much for joining us, ma'am. And my first question to you about this unabated attacks on cultural icons of our country, and this time around it is Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Now, there were Palestinian flags that were seen waving when these group of rioters came down to Mississauga at this place and destroyed Maharaja Ranjit Singh's statue. And as I mentioned in my introduction as well, this is not the first time that his statue has been defaced. This has happened 3 times in Pakistan previously as well.
Well, Megha, first of all, let me clarify that Palestinians earlier have never had any problem with any Indian statue. We have the warmest and strongest relations with Palestine, and they've had an embassy here ever since they decided to set up embassies. So wearing of the traditional Palestinian scarf, etc., could be a diversionary tactic because it's in Canada. It could very well be that these are actually Khalistanis who are doing this. Secondly, Maharaja Ranjit Singh and his fight against British colonialism would definitely strike an emotional chord with the Palestinians who have suffered terrible atrocities at the hands of their colonial masters. So I would first like to set aside and say that I am convinced, but I will await the outcome of an inquiry, that there must be a Khalistani hand and a Khalistani plot behind this incident, because as if you would recall, Megha, we have discussed so many times such horrific incidents in Canada which have always been attributed to that small, marginalized, tiny sect that calls themselves Khalistanis, and they are most welcome to stay in Canada and to create a Khalistan for themselves in Canada, because they are not welcome here. Secondly, defacement of cultural icons. One has to ask oneself the question, why should Maharaja Ranjit Singh statue be singled out? He is a hero of the national movement. He is a hero for everyone in India. Therefore, it would appear that the Khalistani movement in Canada is rapidly turning semi or neo-fascist, because there can be no other explanation as to why they should attack a statue of Maharaja Ranjit Singh in this manner. And you are saying that this has happened in Pakistan. I can well understand that it would happen in Pakistan, even though even within Pakistan, there are many Pakistanis who admire what Maharaja Ranjit Singh did to teach the British a lesson. So the lesson that I would draw from this is that Canada is not doing its sovereign duty to safeguard cultural icons of India, that Canada has in the past not been able to bring to justice those who brought down the Kanishka, which we've discussed in NewsX, including with you many times, and that it is time that Canada understood its obligations under international law and as the host country to safeguard Indian icons, and to remember that if they don't do it, India too would be free to behave in a similar manner, except that India is a country that respects international law and we don't believe in an eye for an eye, which is why Canadian assets are safe in India. But it would appear to me with great sorrow that Indian assets are not safe in Canada. Megha.
Lord Rami Ranger also on the telecast with me. Lord Ranger, how do you react to this apparent Islamist fundamentalism that is in full view, whether we talk about Pakistan and the desecration of cultural icons, the likes of Maharaja Ranjit Singh statue, whether it is about Mahatma Gandhi statues being defaced all across the world, including in Pakistan, and that has happened in United States of America, it's happened in United Kingdom, and now in Canada as well. We have seen these tableaus that are being put out where the assassination of Indira Gandhi is being revered, is being celebrated. Can we see a connection amongst all these heinous activities that take place that are targeting Indian icons, Indian leaders?
Megha, first of all, I must congratulate you. You very eloquently described Maharaja Ranjit Singh, his contribution to India. If it wasn't for Maharaja Ranjit Singh, I shudder to think what would have been the history of India, how the ancient civilization of India would have survived. So the contribution of Maharaja Ranjit Singh is not limited to Sikhs, it is limited to the entire India and to the Indian civilization. So that's number one. There are many people who think he was the one who stopped the expansion of all these foreign rulers who wanted to come and control India. So that could be reason. But what happened in Canada is a tragedy for Canada, because by allowing the politics of different countries into their countries, they are not only damaging their own status as a great country, but they're also destroying race relation in Canada and social cohesion. I think the law has to come down very heavily. Culprits have to be brought to justice, and lesson set for the other people that you do not bring garbage from other countries and dump it in Canada as it is happening in Canada. We do have freedom of speech, but if freedom of speech goes too far, where it starts destroying the freedom of other people, then that cannot be constituted as freedom of speech. So I am very saddened that in a country like Canada, which offer door to these people, if they're Palestinian or they're Khalistanis or whatever, if they're offered a open door to them to give them a good life, the least they can do is to respect the hospitality of Canada and the people of Canada, and they should never ever engage in that kind of thing. And on top of that, Maharaja Ranjit Singh was a secular king. He was a secular, he respected each and every faith. His the general, what do you call the wazir was a Muslim. His finance minister was a Hindu. So he respected temples, he respected mosques, he respected gurdwaras. Would you believe the Kohinoor Hira, he promised to Jagannath temple, and he also sent gold to the temples, for the domes. So he was a completely secular king who respected every faith, and his army was completely inclusive. He not only had Indian in the army, but also foreigners, French were there, and so many different Europeans were in his army. So I think it is an insult to the decency of people who have been given shelter in the Canada, and they resort to these low-level activities and damage a icon which is respected, as the ambassador said, by every Indian and everybody who knew Maharaja Ranjit Singh, what he stood for. And today we're enjoying the civilization. India is surging ahead because we preserve our tradition. Our ancient values have been preserved, and as a result, India is rising, and Indians are rising throughout the world. All the doctor, engineer, teacher, scientists, we are exporting to the world. We are a force for good. We do not do any harm to any country wherever we go. Indian diaspora is the most influential diaspora in the world, contributing positively, and Indian democracy is the biggest democracy in the world, and sending soldiers to the peacekeeping all over the world. So therefore, to damage Indian icon is also insult for India and the people of India. And I think we should really take it very stern action against those culprits who have stooped so low as to attack a statue which cannot defend itself.
Sumit Peer, also on the telecast. Before I go to Sumit, Adit Kothari, let's hear it from you about, like I said, several of these instances where our temples are being defaced, our cultural icons are being desecrated. We've seen Hindu hate that has been very visible on the streets of Canada in different parts. Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who is an icon that is revered by Sikhs and Indians all across the globe, and where we see a very large segment of population of the Indian diaspora, which is the Sikh community that resides over there, that has made Canada its home. And in contrast, we see such a popular, revered Sikh icon, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, being attacked, his statue being defaced. How do we interpret this?
I think the interpretation is quite simple, Megha. It's about understanding who these icons are and knowing what they have done in history, and basically not agreeing with their actions or having a disdain and contempt against them, and demonstrating that contempt by defacing and vandalizing their statues. We've seen this an umpteen number of times in Pakistan. We've seen this during the Leicester riots in Leicester. We've seen this in London. We've seen this in Canada, in Australia, time and time again. So I think we shouldn't be seeing it just from the narrow prism of just vandalism, but it's also about the historical significance, the kind of connect that they have with history and with the population today, and how these nefarious elements within our population see themselves. the one thing in all of this which screams out blatantly to me is the silence which is demonstrated by the so-called Khalistanis who claim to be voicing their opinion and their voices for the marginalized Sikhs in India. They are completely silenced. The other silence that we see is from the institution of the representatives of the Sikhs, the so-called SGPC, for example. They have maintained a silence not only during this incident, but during the vandalism that we saw at the Strand when the Indian High Commission was being vandalized, when the Indian flag was being defiled, or when the Indian High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy was in Scotland, and he was essentially stopped by hoodlums belonging to the Khalistani gangs. So we've seen this a number of times, and this silence, this political correctness needs to be kicked into the dustbin. It needs to be kicked into the dustbin not only by the polity of India, not only by the population of the Sikhs, but also the polity that resides in the Western world. The Western world needs to come out and identify these people as miscreants, as foul people, and as criminal gangs. Until we don't do that, we will keep seeing this time and time again. And it's not about the plight of the Palestinians, as Ambassador Mukherjee, clearly pointed out. It's not about what Israel is doing. It's about, enjoying the vandalism. It's about, relishing the sort of chaos. And that is what we are seeing time and time again. So at the end of it all of these people in the West celebrating, barbarism, killings of Israelis, etc. They are all anti-humanists at its very core, and that is what we need to call out, Megha.
Ambassador Mukherjee, is this reflective of Islamist fundamentalism? We've seen sloganeering, protests, large gatherings in United States of America and in United Kingdom and other parts of the country, calling out, screaming on the top of their lungs, genocide of Jews is required, death to the Jews, in wake of the Gaza conflict that we witness at this point of time, that has now extended to the Hezbollah-Israel war. We see individuals with the flags of Palestine at this point of time desecrating the monument of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And then if we look back at history, Maharaja Ranjit Singh was the one strong ruler of the country that was able to stop the invasion of the Afghans into Indian territory. Is this all things anti-Muslim or not aligning with the viewpoint of the Muslim Islamist Brotherhood that brings together these fundamentalists across the globe to raise their voice, attack statues, attack people, attack countries who do not have a view that is similar to theirs?
Megha, I would respond as follows. The determination of the Israeli Prime Minister to bombard Beirut, Lebanon, which is an independent country recognized as a UN member, with impunity, carries very wrong signals and messages which have grave implications for international peace and security. It goes far beyond your question of Muslim fundamentalism or Palestinian flags, etc. In those actions, India has never been either consulted, nor have we ever endorsed Netanyahu's bombardment of Beirut, his assassination of leaders of Hezbollah, etc. We have nothing to do with it. We have never supported such behavior. We have always stood for respect of international law. Otherwise, if we want to do the same, we can do the same in our own neighborhood. It's not difficult to understand what I'm referring to. So we are a responsible nation. We don't do this, which is why I said from the beginning, we have no quarrel with the Palestinians. They have the oldest Palestinian embassy in Delhi. We have supported the Palestinian cause. At the same time, we enjoy close strategic partnership with Israel, but that does not include endorsement of Israel's behavior with regard to its current battle in Lebanon. Therefore, I am convinced that this is the work of Khalistani terrorists in Canada, perhaps supported by the ISI in Pakistan. But what is very strange is that why should even Khalistanis attack the statue of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, who actually symbolizes the pride of India, the pride of Sikhs, the pride of everyone, and as you rightly pointed out, the man who stood up and refused to allow the Afghans into India. So therefore, I am convinced that this is a tactic to divert our attention from the actual threat being faced to Indian assets in Canada by the small minority fringe, the Khalistanis. Of course, there are also Islamic fundamentalists who may be wishing to fish in troubled waters. We know the hand of the ISI in many of these incidents, and therefore I would not call them Islamic fundamentalists. I would call it the hand of the Pakistani deep state and the ISI. That's what I would call it.
Okay.
I would not call it Islamic fundamentalists.
Lord Rami Rencha, how should Canadian authorities act on this? The Mississauga police had taken note of this. The person in question has been identified. He is absconding. Do these attacks usually go unnoticed or not taken very seriously by the West?
I think we should not let them go unnoticed. The High Commission of India in Canada should lodge a strong protest, because after all, he was an Indian icon. I very much doubt that any Sikh who consider Maharaja Ranjit Singh as an icon and aspire his way of conducting their kingdom and their reign would try to deface or damage the statue of their revered king. So I think we need to find the real culprit, the motive behind it. It has to be really thoroughly investigated rather than just making assumptions, which is not the right way. It can even backfire more. And there are some theories going around, but I would like to wait till we have the evidence and we get the culprit. We get him to say why he did it and what was the motive behind it. But my main concern is the Sikh bodies in Canada should not let it go. They should protest. They are very strong diaspora in Canada. Many of them are in parliament. Many of them are in government. They should really make sure that justice is done and such incident never take place again. And lesson has to be taught to people who have taken this liberty of attacking someone who was considered a role model not only by Sikh but also by Hindus and Muslims. Because till today, as the ambassador said, in Pakistan, there are a lot of people love Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and the very fact there was a statue in Lahore was a testament to the love they have.
Yeah.
But there are always fanatic, but the fanatic cannot decide the love and the respect of the majority of people. And the terrorists are those who take law and order in their own hand. They do not go by the democratic norms. In fact, they hijack the democracy. They flaunt with democracy, and anyone who does not believe in rule of law, for me, is a terrorist, because they have constitutional right, they have a ballot box, they have all the means democratically given to them, they have courts, law, judiciary, they can take their grievances to the highest authorities, but to take law into their own hand damages their own cause and makes them really like terrorists.
Adit, coming back to you and the same question, are the police, law and order enforcement authorities in the West, whether it is Canada or Australia, United Kingdom, United States of America, shall we say that they're least bothered and would rather concentrate on other things versus actually nabbing these fanatics, these fundamentalists, these rioters, and putting them behind bars? I would like to draw a comparison. When no action is taken against individuals, extremists who carry out these processions with tableaus of Indira Gandhi, the former Prime Minister of the country, being assassinated, and celebrations taking place over that incident that took place many years ago, then what chance do we have of the police actually taking notice of an act as gruesome as it may be of defacing of Maharaja Ranjit Singh's statue?
Honestly, I don't see any consequence demonstrated, as a result of what has happened. Primarily, taking into account all of the incidents that you've described as a precedence. The Canadian, it's just not the Canadian polity or the law enforcement agencies. It's the British law enforcement and the policy makers, the Americans, the Australians, all of them seem to be distinguishing between who is a good terrorist and who are the bad terrorists. Ultimately, these Khalistanis or the Islamists or, any extremists belonging to the JKLF are individuals who have been created, who have been pandered to by the Western polity, the Western law enforcement agency. So they are the Frankensteins, they're the creations, they're essentially monsters created by the Western powers ultimately. So I see absolutely no reason why they will be going after them. And that sort of political correctness that we've seen demonstrated by the Jagmeet Singhs or the Justin Trudeaus of the world is very evident. The fact that they do not want to call out any sort of vandalism, any sort of incident that is anti-humanist in its core, in its nature, demonstrates that they're not interested in taking these miscreants to task, and they are more keen to sort of push them into the mainstream rather than call them out as fringe. So all in all, it's political correctness which is going to be the end of Western civilization if they continue to indulge in this madness. Until the wider Sikh society, the wider Muslim society comes out and advocates and calls out this sort of nefarious behavior as rotten, I don't see any sense of hope.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.